This is the big movie that's coming out this week. This is the most expensive Netflix movie that has ever been made. It's got Ryan Gosling, and who is that with him there? Is that
Chris
Chris
Evans.
Evans.
Chris Evans with a sporting a mustache? I think mustaches are going to come back, guys. Um, this is I don't even know anything about the Gray Man. What are we in for? What is this?
It is a fugitive thriller type thing. Somebody gets like wrongly accused of something. Ryan Gosling's character and is basically on the run from Chris Evans and his team.
That's
It's
So
legit.
we're
that's the
gonna
gist of it.
we're expecting some chase sequences, possibly
Big
some
time.
fights,
Oh yeah.
and it's like what did they spent something like 200 million on this?
Yes.
What
This
does
is
that?
Let
Where
me
does all that money go? What is that
I can
budgeted?
tell
200
you.
million. Yes.
I think most of that money went to these actors. That's where that
No,
money went.
you're
It's
kidding.
I mean, Netflix movies, that's the problem, right? So like when you some of these, I mean, okay, so Amazon, the big example with Amazon is that they spent like upwards of like almost 200, oh, it was definitely more than 100, it might have been close to 200 million dollars just to acquire the rights to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
And then Netflix recently paid what's his name? The Knives Out. Who made Knives Out? Was it Ryan
Ryan
Johnson?
Johnson.
Yeah, Ryan Johnson. They paid him and Daniel Craig like 200 to 400 million dollars to make more movies, and that's not even like the budget. Like some of that is the budget, but they both took away like 100 million per just to sign on to work with these companies, and
that's
that's where
insane.
some a lot of this money goes. It's not every dollar of that is going towards the production budget, and that's I think a problem because
That's a huge
they're
problem.
they're throwing money away. I mean, take that, divide it in four, make four really good $50 million mid-budget films rather than making a $200 million one, which honestly, looking at the trailers, I don't know where that $200 million is being spent. You could make this movie for less than 100 if you wanted to.
And that's the thing. It's like this is what we see constantly with with animation. Hell, Chris Evans was just Buzz Lightyear, and it's not performing particularly well. But if people
Did you
think,
hear
hey,
that
we can...
Tom Hanks had something to say about it recently?
No, I didn't hear what Tom. What is this going to make me like Tom Hanks?
He I don't know. I mean, he basically said he did not know why he couldn't understand why they didn't let Tim Allen do the voice of Buzz Lightyear. So
Yeah, I
basically
don't either.
agreeing with what Tim Allen said like last week, or 2 weeks ago.
Okay, Tom Hanks, you get my favor this week.
Anyway, the Gray Man. I mean, back to the
Yeah,
yeah.
but we get caught into this trap of, well, maybe if we get this celebrity in the movie, then everybody will want to watch it. And that's not always a safe bet. People want better stories right now. And you can watch Ozark for Jason Bateman, but he's not the reason that people are watching the show or talking about the show. It's the performances of everybody. It's the world.
Mhm.
It's the story and the suspense. I don't know why this keeps happening. Maybe they just have really good agents, but I don't think that these two actors in a chase movie is really going to be drawing audiences to them. We'll see, but like we said before, it's not going to be something that makes Netflix more money unless people suddenly decide to subscribe again.
That's interesting that you'd think that though, because I mean everybody loves Ryan Gosling and everybody
That's
loves Chris
true.
Evans right now, especially. I think it's a pretty solid cast. And that girl, I don't remember what her name is. She's
Ana
been
de
pretty
Armas.
popular. Yeah, she's been very popular right now. I think just based on because I really like pretty much all those actors, just based on the cast alone, I'm like, oh, you know what? I think I'm gonna watch it. So
Hmm.
they got me.
Well, I
I
mean,
Okay,
the
think
so
that's
Russo brothers
one.
directed it, so they got some street
yeah,
cred there. Avengers. Uh,
True.
I think because of the names, like that's where their big marketing is coming from. It's like
Well,
it's sad to say, like people do want their stories and they do want people to care about stories, but to draw them in, just big filmmakers know that they need a face or a couple of faces that people know and love to really get them in. So if they're willing to spend that much to get good marketing and sure that people are going to watch it, then Yeah.
Well, and the majority of Netflix originals, it doesn't always have big names. They always use new random people, and I mean, it can be a great movie, and people still won't watch it because they don't know who they're seeing. Sometimes it
Yeah.
happens where like blows up, and then everybody suddenly wants to watch it, and that person becomes famous. That's not always the case. It's
Yeah.
a huge risk, and Netflix has the money. It's like they know they're gonna get back what they're putting into it. So.
Hmm.
It's sort of the
At
same
least-
thing what they did with, what was that, Red Notice, and they were actually making a sequel, where basically I'm sure most of that money went to Dwayne Johnson,
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds.
Gal Gadot.
I was like, I know we're talking about Ryan Gosling now. There's the other Ryan. I mean Ryan Reynolds,
Yeah.
and then Gal Gadot. So that's, it's sort of like a strategy where back in the 80s and 90s, like star vehicles were a big thing. Nowadays, it's not so
Yeah.
much because, again, people like their stories. Well, people don't go to the theater simply because they like the guy in the movie or the gal in the movie. I mean, that's why we say like Tom Cruise is the last Hollywood movie star, because he's one of those very few people today who people will still, they'll just go watch anything as long as Tom Cruise is in it. But you
Yeah.
can't say that about, I don't think, anybody in this movie in particular. So, I mean, that's a problem. And I think Netflix is also now beyond the part where they're just dishing out cash simply because what they want is they want validation from Hollywood, or they want to play in the same playground as the other studios. Because I think at this point they've established themselves well enough that they shouldn't be throwing $200 million at movies like this. Particularly because the Russo brothers, they did the two Avengers movies and they did the Captain America movie. But if you look at anything they've done beyond that, even like the stuff they've done with Netflix, they don't have a resume that I think warrants giving them $200 million to make a film, even though they have made like the Avengers movies, because the Avengers movies are part of the MCU. Anything part of the MCU automatically gets like a boost. Like there's a certain floor of an MCU movie, like no MCU movie ever has flopped. So whereas this, I mean, even with a limited theatrical run, this movie's not going to make his money back. This is all about getting subscribers.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
again, it's like when you that's how they got me originally with Arrested Development. I said, "Oh, I'm going to have to buy this Netflix thing." And then I was hooked because I could watch all of Malcolm in the Middle, and I did. And a lot of movies and horror movies, and like this is how they lure you in with something really, really exciting. And then the next month rolls around and you've been watching something else. The key for them going forward is to have other stuff that's as high quality. And I'm already speaking of this as though I know it's high quality. I know they spent a lot of money on it. That much I know for
It
sure.
looks good in the sense
Yeah.
that it visually looks good, like anything you would see in a theater. But I don't know about like how much of a fun time it might be to watch.
Well, we're going to watch it. We're going to tell you what we think. Hopefully, you're going to watch it and you're going to see how your opinion matches up with us. But that's sort of what we have in store for you next week, and that and a lot of other stuff. Trust me, we packed this show full of all kinds of stuff. In the meantime, be sure to follow us, be our friend, join our family, our fan movie. Nah, not today. Not today.
Join our group.
Sorry.
Movie
Anyway.
fan community. How hard is that?
Just harder than you think.
Just
And that
shorten
has-
it, like MFC. You should remember it that way.
Join the MFC. Sounds like, yeah, something.
Now you're
fried
like,
chicken.
well, what does that mean? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not sticking in my brain today. But like and subscribe, comment, share.